Hey, happy Sunday, everybody. Jeff, you're absolutely right. The graphics are live. You know, it's always something. And I realized that this time around I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I got everything ready. And now let's start the show. And I go live I click like the go live button a few seconds early because I figure why wait till the last second? I can actually be prepared. And then I realized that it still was set up for episode 64 with managing your studio with Nim. I was like, damn it. It's always one thing. But hopefully that was our thing. And then we can kind of just kind of look forward and just kind of break new ground here. Happy Sunday, everybody. It's been a couple weeks. I hope everybody's doing well. Let's see the names. David's here. Chris is here. Christoph's here. Hey, Mark is here. Valentine. This is wonderful. Jeff. I haven't seen Jeff in days. How you doing, buddy? How are the levels? Oh, Nicholas is here. This is great, man. See, this is what Mocha brings out the best in people. That's what I say, or brings out the best people is what I think we're going to find out today. And, my guest today is no exception. He is one of the best people. This is wonderful. It's cold. I would like to say that. The weather has turned. And in the Logic Live studio here, I used to complain about how warm it was from all the computers that I have in here and the heat they generated. But damn, it's toasty now. I love it. Oh, look, Ross has joined the chat. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, the music might be a little lower. Well, that's all right. We'll fix it next week, I promise. All right, here we go. I haven't lost my touch. Hey, everybody. My name is Andy. Welcome to Logic Live. This is Logic Live number 66. We're going to talk Mocha Pro 2022. Let's get underway. We'll go right to the slideshow. This episode of Logic Live, like all episodes of Logic Live, are sponsored by our friends at Synesys.io, solutions development, integration, and support, supporting flame artists since 1997. Thank you, Synesys. And thank you to AJA. AJA and Flame together since 2006. These guys make the best video hardware in the business. If you need anything in the way of video hardware, check out aja.com. Thank you, Steve Losi. Love you, love you. Oh, and this is apropos for today. We have a discount code, a Logic TV discount code, that will save you 15% on any Boris FX product, standalone or subscription, when you use the code Logic-15 at checkout. That's everything in the Boris FX suite. Thank you very much, Boris FX. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we got merch. Randy and I opened up a little merch store. If you head over to logic.tv and click on the merch button, you'll see all the wonderful offerings that we have that you can use to adorn yourself and look your best when you're making those beautiful images as you do as a flame artist. And I want to give a shout out to all of our patrons on Patreon. The list keeps growing. I had to make the font size smaller. Randy, we're going to have to reconfigure this list. It's really incredible. I think we have 89 patrons at this point. And Randy and I just want to thank all of you for helping to make all of this possible. If you would like to become a patron, if you like what we're doing here at Logic and you want to help keep the good work going, you can become a patron on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. That gets you some merch, it gets you some discounts, and it gets you access to exclusive content. Like after all of our Logic Lives, we do an exclusive Q&A just for our patrons. So we're going to do one with Ross. If you would like to become a patron, you can head on over to patreon.com/LogicTV. The forum is booming, ladies and gentlemen. Traffic is way up, and we're super excited about that. We're now up to 930 users on the forum, up to 125,000 page views a month. That's a 25% increase. And I would like to thank everyone in the community for making that an increment that I could do the math on in my head. We average about 60 new posts a day. And by the way, we only average about 8 new posts a day on Facebook Logic, on the Logic forum on Facebook, a group on Facebook rather. So there's a lot more exciting stuff happening on a much more frequent basis. over at forum.logic.tv. The response time there is less than an hour. You post something, you get a response back. I posted a question about Python scripting last week, and I got 2 responses back within like 15 minutes. And we have 90 users on our Discord server, which has really been a lot of fun. Last week, we did, last Monday when Apple had their Apple event, we did like a watch party on the Logic TV Discord. I think we had like 15 or 16 people on from all over the world. It was fantastic. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation, sign up for the forum at forum.logic.tv and then just click on the Discord link and hop on and chat with your friends all around the world. Let's take a moment to talk about Logic Academy. A couple weeks ago, we launched 3 new classes. The first is a 2-parter from the man, the myth, the legend, Jeff Kyle, on the image node workflow. Fantastic series. Like I said, it's a 2-parter. The first one is an overview of the image node workflow. And the second part, gives you specific workflows for beauty and color grading and a few extra tips. Jeff is fantastic at this. What he really tries to show are not only like the tools and the tool sets, but a bunch of real world gotchas. Like here are some things you might run into and things you should look out for to make sure you have the most efficient workflow and the best possible time using the image node. And we have 2 videos from my partner in crime, Randy McEntee. The first one is 8-minute aces. I know color management scares the bejesus out of everyone, and this 8-minute video is designed to alleviate those fears from you. It really is amazing. Randy likes to refer to his tip in here as like the one little preset to rule them all, to make sure that everything that you bring into the aces world looks the same when it goes out. It's really a wonderful video. Definitely check it out. He also did a video called Intro to NDI. NDI was introduced in, I think it was Flame 2022, and gives you the built-in option to stream the output of your Flame via NDI. Randy gives some excellent examples on how to manage audio, on how to stream to devices like iPads and Apple TVs. Another wonderful little video. I want to thank our friends at Autodesk for sponsoring the Logic Academies. These are all available for free. You can head on over to Logic TV, check them out. In addition to our previous one from Jeff, which was a 3-parter on Connect and Conform. Fantastic. Definitely check them out. And while you're checking things out on YouTube, take a peek at Grant Kay's latest video from the Flame Learning Channel. It's how you can show all the files. This is a new feature in Flame 2022.2, I believe, where you can see all the files in a folder, not just the ones that Flame is compatible with. All right, my friends, in case you hadn't heard, how's the level on that one, Jeff? I bet you that was loud. One Frame of White is back. A couple weeks ago, we announced a new One Frame of White for 2021. We have a bunch of people signed up. I'm super excited. Thank you very much, everybody, for signing up. One Frame of White is back. In case you have never heard of One Frame of White, if you're new to the Logic world or the Flame community, One Frame of White is, without a doubt, the greatest creative challenge in the history of VFX. What you need to do is make anything you can think of using all of the tools in Flame. But the catch is you can only have one frame of white as your source. So you start with one frame of white and then build whatever you want. The theme this year is Logic. And we have some amazing prizes. First place is a Dell laptop worth over $12,000. And what comes with the laptop is free tech support from our friend Jack Horrocks. I'll show you a couple more of the prizes here. Second place is a 12-month subscription to Flame from our friends at Autodesk. Third place is a TTAP Pro from AJA. Fourth place is a permanent license of Mocha Pro OFX, which I believe we're going to hear more about in a little bit. And that's just the beginning of our prizes. If you want to see the full list of prizes, if you want to sign up, there's still plenty of time. The deadline is November 21st for submissions. You can register today at oneframeofwhite.com. We also have every entry for One Frame of White for all the years we've done it is up at the website. You can download the videos, you can download the setups, and check out how it was done. One Frame of White. We're going to have the big reveal in December. I believe it's December 12th. So thank you to everybody who submitted, and it's not too late. Make your mark. Sign up for One Frame of White. All right. My guest today is the lovely and talented Ross Shain from Boris Effects, and I'm going to bring him on right now. Ross, how you doing, man?
Hey, Andy. Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Well, how was that intro? That's all the time we have for Logic Live today. The intro's gotten so long.
Dude, I love the One Frame of White music. That was epic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I have real simple philosophy when I'm looking for stock music. I look for something called fanfare, and believe it or not, it's called fanfare. It's perfect.
Nice.
It's a great thing. We've been doing it. I think this is our 8th one frame of white, and it's just wonderful to see, what people come up with, and then like dive in and see how they're made. It's a beautiful thing.
So I was looking at that, and people can use Sapphire if they wanted. They could use any effect, any
Yeah,
plugin.
yeah, yeah. That's the thing. We
That's
have a
cool.
deal going with
Yeah.
Boris where you guys have supplied a temp license for Sapphire OFX, so that's part of the tool set in your submission. It's like anything that ships with Flame. So any of like the
Yep.
stock 3D models, stock textures, the Matchbox plugins that ship with Flame.
Paint,
You know.
modeling, whatever
Oh
particles.
yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
it's wild what people have come up with. I mean, like total 3D environments, or some have been like really, really, really beautiful art pieces. And yeah, it's just if all you had on your Flame was one single frame of white, and you
Yeah.
loaded the setup, you'd get the same result. It's like it's a beautiful, simple. It's a beautiful thing. Well, before we get started, congratulations, by the way. This it wasn't that long ago. I think it was last month, right? You guys celebrated the 20th anniversary of Mocha.
Yeah, that's right. 20th anniversary of planar tracking. Mocha was a couple years. It basically, yeah, 20 years ago is when the team sort of came up with the concept of planar tracking. And the first tool was called Moki. That some people here, I know a lot of the Flame
Oh, I
artists
remember
were kind of
Moki.
excited about it back in
I
the
remember
day.
the skateboarder removal demo.
Yeah, yeah, it was really fun. Actually, I resurrected some of the old footage and was looking at it in the actually got like Moki version 2 running on my system, and it was pretty fun to like look at the old interface and kind of like think about what we did over the years to kind of to the evolution from Moki into what we're doing now with Mocha
Hmm.
Pro. That is. Um, yeah. Also, if anyone is interested, we had a cool YouTube stream a couple weeks ago where we had Alan Yannicki, which some people in the Flame group might know because he was
Sure.
one of the original founders, and he used to come to New York City or go to L.A. and show Moki to all the Flame artists back in the day, as well as Philip McLaughlin, who is the sort of the original coder of planar tracking. And we had
Oh,
those
cool.
guys, myself, and John Paul Smith, who's kind of my partner in the Mocha crime world. We've been working together for a long time at this point, and it was kind of fun, just kind of talk about the history of of this particular software, but also just sort of like what was happening back in those days. The state of software back in those days.
Sure. Oh, that's great. Yeah, definitely. If anybody wants to check it out, check out the Boris Effect stream. You guys do a video or a live stream every Wednesday,
We
or
try
pretty
to
much
do.
every Wednesday.
Yeah, we're kind of settling into it every 2 week cadence, I think.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we have a big one coming up too. Just to mention, in a couple weeks we're going to be showing the new Sapphire 2022, and a new Continuum as well. So that
Oh,
should be a
great.
good one. Yeah.
Great. I'll have to send Brian flowers or something like as like an emotional support puppy or something like that to get him through all the
Yeah,
streaming
no,
that I'm sure you
he's
guys are
in
going to
the
be doing.
Brian and the Sapphire team are definitely in the thick of things, trying to get there is a beta happening, and probably some of the people in this who are viewing are on the beta. But
Hmm.
if you want to get onto the Sapphire beta, you could contact me, or most people here probably know how to get in touch with Brian through the Logic forum and everything.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Mocha 2022. Do you want to take us through some of the new bells and whistles?
Sure. Yeah, if you want to share my screen, just kind of start there. And yeah, some of this is just going to be talking because there's some points that are sort of just we've done quite a lot in the last couple of years. There's certainly in this release to improve the software, obviously with new features and power mesh and all that kind of stuff. But we've also done quite a bit just sort of like under the hood to make the software more robust and support different formats. So it's kind of at a very high level talk about some of the bullet points here. Um, I'm not running on a Windows machine myself. Sorry, on a Mac machine today, and I do apologize. I'm not going to be able to show you stuff on a Mac on Flame, but um, we do support the new release does support Apple Silicon, and Apple's coming out with a new. Probably you guys, I think Andy you mentioned. Yeah, there you go. I know you guys are probably excited about the new laptops are coming. $6,000 sounds a lot for a laptop, but very powerful laptops, which will be great. And Mocha Pro is already, this version we support M1 natively, so you can run Mocha Pro standalone, and we saw speed. really increased speeds. So sometimes up to 40, 50% faster, really depending on what you're doing, obviously. Not all of Mocha, some of it will take advantage of multi-threading, and some of it runs on GPU as well. So, but that was kind of a cool thing, the M1 support. Um, I can talk about it. It's still in beta, but most people, if you're interested in After Effects support, that After Effects has been in beta with this MFR, which stands for multi-frame rendering, and it's really like almost a full rewrite of Adobe After Effects, where every effect basically is going to take advantage of multi-frame, multi CPUs. And so, of course, BorsFX, being, we have a lot of customers running on After Effects, obviously. So now Mocha Pro is supporting the MFR, so it's not going to slow down. And if you have Mocha Pro in your comps, but we've been seeing lots of great speed ups there as well. Things like the remove module, things that might have been slow in the past. So we support multi-frame rendering. It's kind of a nice thing.
Cool.
The last thing I meant.
I
Go
think
ahead.
I've identified what most people on Logic are going to be complaining about and want support for, or a feature they would like after we finally get Apple Silicon support. But we'll do a pool
Yes.
later.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing with the Silicon support is not all the hosts, right? Are fully native. Many of the applications you have to run in Rosetta, like in this emulation mode, and it is taking some hosts longer than others. Um, so Adobe, for example, for their M1 support for After Effects, that's not going to be coming until like next year. Um, but yeah, the other thing to mention is the VFX reference platform. And if you guys don't know about this is sort of like it's basically industry platform that lots of big studios, a lot of film studios sort of try to unify on what version of OS and what version of Alembic, and sort of across the board what version of ACES and Open Color IO. So now we're supporting the VFX reference platform for 2021 with this new release, which is kind of like a nice thing. Um, so I'll go ahead, and the other things that I can show are going to start getting into the features. So lots of interface features, lots of things that you guys or different Mocha users have asked for over the years. And then we'll also talk a little bit about like Power Mesh and some of the exports that we've updated. So it's kind of my spiel. I can kind of go ahead and show you my screen. Oh, the other thing I do want to mention too, if you haven't been to the BorsFX website in a while, just to mention, um, training is just always kind of constant for us. We're our customer base always wants more training, especially with Mocha. I think a lot of users find that they might use Mocha just on like certain kinds of shots to get in there, do some planar tracking, get out, go back to your host. And they find that they're always having to relearn the software, or they might not dive deep into it. So we did release, and this is maybe, I don't know, a couple months ago, something called Mocha Essentials. And this is 7 hours of free training. And you can find that on the BorsFX website. If you go to like training and just go to videos by product, you find Mocha, and you'll see this featured video series. That's Mocha Essentials, which is Ben Brownlee and Mary Poplin. You guys probably are aware of those guys. They're all over our site, and they've done tons and tons of Mocha, similar to what Grant does with the Flame Learning Channel. We're kind of really diving deep into all the Mocha features. So that's Mocha Essentials. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Here I'm in After Effects. Again, I apologize, I'm not in Flame today, but pretty much as you guys know, once you get into Mocha, it's the exact same thing, no matter what host you're running, if you're running on the plugin. Um, so I'll talk a little bit about some of the new stuff here. In this shot, what we're going to do, I'll just go ahead and load in the plugin here, Mocha Pro. And we're going to go ahead and launch the interface just by clicking the button. And as soon as that launches, we'll kind of talk about some of the new stuff here. Number one thing that's kind of neat about the interface, and again, this is sort of something that people have asked for a long time, is now we have channel views. Not incredibly exciting, but if you've been one of the customers who waited for this for a long time, you're probably like, why, do we not have a channel splitter? Thank you very much. Thank you. But
Sorry, it
that's
seemed
kind of cool.
appropriate.
Yeah, yeah. But that's kind of cool because, as you guys know, especially with noisy footage, there are times that you want to be viewing by channel, but also tracking by channel. So now, if I say I was tracking, this area of her leg right here, now you also have your processing here, pre-processing, and you can track by default. Mocha can track, by auto, meaning it will pick whatever channel it thinks has the most detail for it. But if you wanted to now, you could be looking and doing the tracking for each of these individual channels. And that's kind of a nice thing, especially for like, low light or things like that. So that's pre-processing. This is actually going to be something we're working on right now where we're adding a whole new pre-processing section where you're going to be able to play with the luminance and grain and blurring. So I know some flame artists might actually do this. You might actually load a node in batch, to like boost the contrast before sending it to Mocha. So we're gonna have like a new section here and that's something that we're gonna probably go to beta in the next couple months on for like a Mocha Pro 2022.5 release. Um, Okay, so let's just delete this. We're going to talk a little bit about Power Mesh and different ways that you can use Power Mesh. I'm sure that everyone knows that Mocha is a planar tracker. So if I wanted to track this belly area here, we could normally just go in here and track translation, rotation, and perspective, right? If we're looking at our surface, we know that Mocha is like a 2.5D, so like perspective would be, perspective kind of thing. So we added Power Mesh last year, and we've been updating it over this last in this last release. So to turn on Power Mesh, we're turn on perspective and mesh. By default, the mesh is basically triangulating in trying to come up with what it thinks is sort of like the best details. You can turn on adaptive contrast and regenerate the mesh, and it'll basically try to make sort of a more dense mesh based on the pixels I can define. But obviously, like here, there's not really much detail in the skin at all. And this is kind of like shots like this might be one of the reasons why like a flame or a nuke artist might start using Mocha for the mesh tracking. I mean, the smart vectors and um, what's the flame one called, Andy? Is flame smart vectors that nuke?
Motion vectors.
Motion vectors, super, really, really great, useful technology. That is based on optical flow, and what we found is like when it works great, but there are times that the users want to be able to kind of massage the data a little bit, and that might be one of the reasons why you might want to check out the Power Mesh tools. Um, I'll change this to uniform, and just you do want to keep hitting regenerate, and then basically instead of the triangulated mesh, it basically just kind of creates this uniform mesh. I personally find for skin, this is like a better way to track things that have very little detail. And if before I start tracking, I want to note that you have this mesh tracking area here. And Andy, I think you and I talked about this once. The kind of way to think about this under the hood or behind the box is like that every single one of these little regions in here, think of those as their own planar trackers. Okay, so we have like a big planar tracker, which is the capturing the surface, and then under the hood, you can sort of think that each one of these little areas is their own planar tracker. And then what comes down to like different ways to sort of solve different kinds of tracks is this mesh tracking parameter. If I turn on auto smoothness, it's basically Mocha's going to try to go ahead and guess how rigid or how, basically how much of the surface it should be tracking. Let's go ahead and start tracking this and sort of see as this goes across. You also can dial up the smoothness or dial down the smoothness. And what that does is it's mixing the overall planar tracker of the entire shape with the surface tracker, meaning like with the sort of like organic, subplanar tracking area here. I personally find like I'll usually do like a track with the auto smoothness, but if the surface, if I want to capture the sort of like subplanar details of like the way the skin's moving, but if it's not, if it's not like rippling, it's just kind of like a little bit of stretching, I might actually dial it up a little bit to use more of the overall planar tracker and less of the subplanar tracking. Hopefully that makes sense. I can kind of visually show you what I mean by that. Just let that go a little bit.
Yeah, I used this on Power Mesh on some skin. When I think it was when it first came out, and you helped me out. I was trying to track a shoulder that didn't have any detail on it at all, and it was amazing the results that I got. And I was able to export a piece of geometry that I could then send to CG, and they were able to project their stuff on it. It was great.
Very cool. No, we're really happy to see like that. Feel like the people, especially people who've been using Mocha for a long time, have been really excited about this feature. And you can sort of see if I scrub through there, see how like this area right in here, and this is just kind of talk about a little bit about how you like as a user you want to make sure you have a good track. You can sort of see it's like pulling a little bit there, maybe more than I wanted to. You Mocha has an adjust track module, which I'll come back and talk about, but Power Mesh also has the concept of adjusting your track before you export it. So what you could do is you can turn on this little doohickey up here, which is edit the track mesh itself. And if I select a mesh and scrub it through here, what you want to do is you want to turn on your zoom windows here, right? You can actually make that a little bigger with your Z key there. You can, with the X key, you can move them around. But as I scrub through, you can sort of see the keyframe here, our first keyframe, and then the frame and you can sort of see visually if we need to do any tweaking. And if I actually grab this guy here, let's move it, you sort of see how it's moving around. And what that does is that will interpolate a keyframe there. So that key won't just snap on that keyframe. So it's really using the same as the adjust track module where you can kind of like adjust your track mesh as you go. And this kind of thing just gives you a little bit more, finite controls over your adjustments. If you wanted to add more points, you can select these points. Also, just to mention up here, you can lasso a selection. Not everyone knows about that one. It's kind of a neat little trick.
Ooh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, so that's up here. Yeah, it's fun to kind of sometimes do these things, and it's just like I don't get to demo that often, but there's a lot of things that that are there that people might not know. That's under marquee selection there, so you can change that from marquee to lasso, and you get a little drawing kind of tool there. With the and again, if you're editing the mesh, edit the track mesh, you can select points, and you could delete these points. You could also add points, like say for example, you have an area that is folding a lot in here, and I wanted to actually give myself a little bit of more kind of warping data. I could go ahead and add like to the mesh itself, and we could insert some points to the mesh. And then again, you could animate those points and do stuff like that. So that's all kind of nice tools for editing your mesh. Another thing that we've added in this version is the ability. I mentioned that this smoothness control here is basically it's kind of dialing. If I dial that up, it's using more of that overall surface planar track and less of these little subplanar tracks. But you can also now, if I hid this, let's hide that layer. Say I have just like a general planar track, and won't track mesh. Then you could take another layer, and you could tell that layer to actually, if I turn on the mesh down here, this is new existing planar track, and so you could link layer 4 here to like layer 3. And then when we hit track, essentially it'd be using just the mesh track, but the planar track from this layer. And that's actually something that's kind of a cool technique because Um, Mesh track is not just for like face tracking and tattoo tracking and beauty work. It's actually could be used for rotoscoping. So for example, let me just see. Let me see. Well, it's not going to be that impressive, but to kind of give you an idea, I could go ahead and do like something like this around this finger. And probably in this example, yeah, a planar track is going to handle it pretty well anyways. But just to kind of show you, I could go in here and do a mesh track. And again, just like let that track a little bit. And what you'll find is that if you do a mesh track, it's using the planar track, but it's actually the sort of like that subplanar motion is actually going to be useful for roto. So I could turn this off now, and I could get in here and do all the good things that we like to do. Well, I change that back here that we do for roto. Let's just add a couple keyframes and kind of finesse this a little bit. If you're not aware, you do have this edge snapping. That's an older feature. I think that was like last year, but again, I like to kind of try to cover some of this stuff with the S key. And then when I drag, you see how the point tries to snap to high con edges. It's kind of a nice little
Oh, I did
tool
not know
there.
about that.
Yeah, that's edge.
Oh,
That
that's
came
going to
when
change my tomorrow.
when we came out with the magnetic splines. That whole magnetic kind of tracing idea, right?
Yeah. I use that. I
Well,
just didn't know about the snapping with the points there. That's great.
yeah, I think that was a point release, maybe 2020.5. We added that snapping, which is kind of cool. So the S key. So, anyways, again, the long-winded point I'm trying to make is that mesh tracking is actually can drive rotoscoping as well, right? So, basically the shape will inherit the planar track, but also inherit the subplanar for some more like roto goodness. You can obviously export that shape data out for Flame, and I know this was a big one. Was supporting the Flame.
The GMAS
What do you call it?
tracer?
GMAS tracer. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We added that last year as well. So hopefully that's working out well for you guys on the Flame list. Coming back here, talk about a couple other cool things with mesh track. So like once you have a mesh track, what do you want to do with it, right? So you could use it for stabilization. You could use it for beauty work. You can use it for inserts. And the workflow that we would kind of use is like, say we have this mesh track and we wanted to insert a graphic. What we would have to do is we would basically like exit Mocha, we would add another layer, and then in the power mesh sort of twirl down here, sorry, in the module renders, we would basically tell this to render a stabilized warp. That was kind of the way we would do this. So you sort of have two Mocha instances in Flame. One would be like your track, and one you would apply to your graphic. Well, we kind of simplified this workflow, and it also takes advantage, like improved our insert module. So I'll kind of show you what I mean by that. Like, so down here, here's going to be like a comp where we're kind of doing a little, tattoo based on our mesh. I'll kind of just walk you through this. So I have on this After Effects layer, we have basically our graphic. Again, this could be same exact workflow could easily be done in Flame with batch mode and stuff like that. So I have basically a graphic that is scaled to full screen, and then in the Mocha instance here, you have it. You can tell Mocha where you're pulling your insert from. So here you would be basically pulling it from the batch mode in Flame. Basically, you'd be just telling it which layer you want to bring in that data from. You could also bring it in from file if you wanted to. But here I'm just telling us like use layer 2 as my insert graphic. And then if I launch this here, kind of show you what we're doing here inside the insert module. I think of all the hosts that all the different hosts. Maybe Flame users in the past, they used to actually like the insert module because it had a nice little warping feature, a grid warp. So I'll change this here for a second, just for a grid, so you can sort of see what we're doing. And let's just reset it for a second. Turn that off. And here, I'm basically just using the planar surface and our insert. So it's flat. That's the kind of a typical Mocha job, right? It's like, yes, it's kind of scaling, it's kind of moving in perspective, but it's flat. It's still a 2.5D effect. But now what we've done is we've added this here power mesh warp. And so it's a new render option inside of the insert module. So you can turn on power mesh warp, and you're going to see that now the surface is going to like inherit the warp that we've captured in our power mesh, right? And also we've added this grid warp, which has been there for a long time. I'll kind of set this to the insert tattoo so we can sort of see this for a second. Um, this has been there for a long time, but we've kind of updated the interface, which is kind of nice. I can show various levels of detail. I'll zoom in here. It's not the same as it's like it's a 2.5D effect. But you have some really nice interactive warp controls. So if I wanted to kind of do a little bit of bending of an element, digital makeup, a lot of the kind of stuff that you guys might do, I could be doing this kind of thing.
It's
And
great though,
then,
Ross. Like we have the. I mean, I do this in Flame. It's this kind of thing you do upstream to your graphic. So that
yes,
maybe you're cheating the little folds or details or things like that you'd see on when you're trying to make this look like it's on the skin. And it was something that always had to be done, at least in my mind, outside of Mocha. Like it had to be done upstream. It's something I had to do to the graphic before I brought it in here. So this is great.
that's correct. And that's why actually a lot of flame artists in the back in the day, they actually liked this grid warper. But now we have the grid warp. Like there's two warps happening, right? We have the warp that's happening here in the grid warp, and then you have your warp which is driven by the power mesh. So yeah, you typically without many keyframes, really, without many keyframes, you can get this really kind of nice organic motion there. A couple things just also to mention here on the insert, and you can sort of think of this. I mean, the way I would use Mocha Pro in context of Flame, it's almost like it's just like a different option of action mode. It's like a Uber node almost with lots of things inside it, sort of like mini compositing in a sense. Um, we did add this blend modes here. So before, as silly and as it sounds, we never had control here over. All we had was like basic opacity, so no one would actually in their right mind would really be using Mocha's insert module for final compositing. It was just like get in here and do stuff. But now we added all the typical all the typical blend modes that you would expect, the hard light and luminosity and things like that. So that's kind of cool too. Even if you just wanted to preview, if you just wanted to preview your graphic in here, um, you'll also see that like um, you know, we could add layers in compositing here. So if I added like another layer, actually I'll add it on this layer itself and just maybe I already did it. Let's see. Let's turn off our splines there. Yeah, so I have another little layer there, which is basically to knock out that little belt loop kind of like thread that's going on top of the composite. But you can do this all within your one Mocha node in this sense here. Um, I'll mention one other thing. Oops, sorry, I'm getting a little bit of lag. Another thing too is render quality. And if you've ever used the insert module in Mocha and been a little frustrated by the actual quality you're getting out of it, we have added under the hood here, you go to File, Preferences, and then I think it's under System. Where is it? Sorry, I need to remind myself where it is. Somewhere in here, you can actually change your render quality. Let me see where I can find it. System.
Ross, Randy just wanted to let you know that you could have asked permission before agreeing to show his tummy on the internet. I just wanted to say, Randy, congratulations, man. Like, you're on a journey. Everything's looking beautiful. You should be very proud of yourself. And we also want to give a shout out to our new sponsor, Cool Sculpting of Chicagoland. We're happy to welcome to the Logik family.
All right, I will find it before this the stream is over. You can change the render quality, from bilinear to Lansco's to a bunch of different rendering filtering for much higher quality rendering in the of your power mesh, of your insert, stuff like that. So, anyways, it's kind of like quick, kind of showing you like how power mesh has been updated a lot. Another use case for power mesh might be some beauty work, and just kind of cover the workflow really quickly for it. Maybe with something like this shot here. I think I tracked this one, so you don't have to sit through and wait me, but just kind of show you the way. If I click on there and go into here. Okay, so here we've done our mesh track. It did a pretty nice job in there. I mean, there's lots of good detail there. I think with things that go off screen, things that get occluded, these might be some of the reasons why you might want to play with power mesh. If the smart vectors or motion vectors are not working that well on a particular shot. But anyways, so instead of doing like an insert graphic, I just want to kind of show you that I could go in here and go into the stabilize module. And the default of the stabilize module without mesh warp, we're going to kind of see, it's kind of neat. Like without, this is sort of like a smoothing stabilize. And if I select smooth all motion and maximum smoothing, then you're going to see this is like a planar stabilization, right? So I could sort of like stabilize that area of that we've tracked. But again, we're not going to be using the subplanar information. So you'll see in here a little bit of warping and stuff happening. So instead of that, what we could be doing is go to mesh warp. We could set it to unwarp. We can set it to use matte here. And this will take a second. It's a little slower to render, obviously. But now it's basically using all the subplanar data here. So I could basically like output from Mocha back into Flame, back into batch, like a stabilized plate, do some paint, do some touch up, and then basically you just duplicate it and unwarp it, basically.
Dude, so that's insane.
Pretty cool, right?
Oh my God. And this is coming from someone who has 2 weeks of beauty work starting on Monday. So thank you for this. Thank you very much.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'd love to hear from people who are using this workflow. Just also note here that in the stabilize module, I'm set to mesh warp, like unwarp, right? You do want to turn it on high for your, you might like do some work, but you do want to have it on high quality for the highest quality render there. And then if you output this, let's just kind of play around with this for 1 second. Back to Mocha. Then and this will show up, in your flame inspector, essentially, and down in your panel here, but it's the same controls are going to be there. That will set this to stabilize and render, and then there's our patch. Oh, we didn't do the whole thing, so you can sort of see it. But if I step through, there's my it's going to be my stabilized patch. Sorry, unwarp. There we go. Now it's warped, stabilized. I could add my paint. May as well just do it for a second here. Let's delete this.
Yes, for the benefit of those who, as I previously mentioned, are going to start 2 weeks worth of beauty work tomorrow and would love to see how to stabilize and then unstabilize this.
Sure.
Please do. Oh, this is great, man. Oh, it's brilliant.
So
like it solves all, like Quinn said here, it's brilliant for catching subtle motion. Mocha,
yeah,
and
exactly.
especially the mesh warp. This is perfect for this kind of stuff.
it's that really subtle motion that that you might not have as much control with the optical flow kind of stuff, that you just want to do very precise. And again, all the stuff that I was showing you with like the editing the vertices of the mesh before you get to this point, to really nail the really subtle intricacies. But yeah, in After Effects, unfortunately, you do have to pre-comp this. So let's pre-comp that, because then I would wanted to do like you know a paint kind of thing. Let me clone. Uh, Here we go. There we go. You guys will see my After Effects. It was pretty bad, but you get the idea. So I just did a little some subtle touch up there, right? Whatever. And then what we're gonna do, if we go back here again, whoop, not that guy.
That
What
was
we're
an
gonna do,
amazing transformation.
yeah, exactly. What we're gonna do is we are going to paste, because I have another version, the same Mocha instance. Yeah, you guys don't have, it would just basically channel a duplicate of it, and then we would set our module renders here from Stabilize Unwarp to Warp, and then we would have our track motion. So there's the
Oh,
motion
great.
coming back. Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. So that's kind of cool. That's like the workflow for a power mesh stabilization. And if I'll come back here, I can't really show it to you guys, but we can let's talk to the workflow for a second. Is that we've also added, I think Andy, you sort of alluded to this, that we can export this track data, export out of Power Mesh as an Alembic file.
Yes.
So that's just another great way if you want to get the data into like a 3D application, or an application that supports Alembic. Essentially, what you're going to get is you get your power mesh as you get your animated power mesh as a 3D data file. It's not fully 3D, because, as you guys know, like, we're sort of tricking, it's really a 2D solution. So like these the points will not be pulled out in Z space or anything like that, but you can texture this with a surface and use it like that. We've also added a new the ability to export to Nuke now, a new format. We can also export this out as Nuke's mesh tracker, which is really great, because a lot of the Nuke artists, they wanted like the individual, they wanted to do whatever they wanted. Like, say they wanted to do expression link like this specific point to a Nuke tracker or things like that. So now you can export this out there as well. So that's that, a little bit of mesh tracking for you guys. The way this comes together in a fun or cheesy way, a couple of quick examples might be like this, like sort of makeup shot that I did. Again, this is the kind of shot that back in the day we would never be able to do in After Effects. Do this maybe in Flame with with warping and stuff like that. But it's really, really cool to have this, these kind of tools. And that was just a very, very basic. Let's go into the. I think what I ended up doing is using lots of different Mocha shapes for all the different layers here. So let's just kind of step through this. I think I had like there's a layer for his lips. I think I ended up comping those back on top at some point, maybe, but two eye layers, and then underneath that was the mesh track that I think I ended up capturing. And just like people use Mocha, the occlusion masks, like that, layers that are in front will basically can knock out and subtract, so that I could, very typical is you might want to mask out the mouth, or mask out the eyes if the eyes are blinking, but you want to capture, the data around it. That's like a good time where you might want to, use occlusion masks. And I think I also did a couple other things. Let's see what's here. I think I ended up comping his eyes back back on top with, some little shapes to hold those out, and some roto. But yeah, that's kind of like a fun little quick example of digital makeup. And just for speed, I wanted to see if I could, for create something like sort of like a deep fake, but with using Mocha and Photoshop. Kind of a very funny, goofy example, but it might inspire someone here. Our baby here is actually this is going to be the original baby. I'll kind of take this into what I ended up doing is using the neural filters that are in the new Photoshop. I don't know if anyone here has played with them, but you have some really cool filters where you can age or even play with the eye gaze. So what I wanted to do, let me see if I look at one of these layers. Yeah, here I have a bunch of different baby heads, which are just single frames, really just like super
Oh
super
my
quick.
God.
Yeah, I just did this like I aged the baby,
Sure.
but it's actually pretty cool because I wanted to see like just on a typical spots like could we take this kid and change so that he was looking at the camera in that final rather than like looking over there. I
Hmm.
ended up using just kind of just like on one frame just kind of did that the eye kind of thing. So that's kind of fun. And where I see if I go in here.
I think there are people in who are watching this who worked on the Geico talking baby commercials for like the years that ran, and will not get that time back. And there we go. And to
There you go.
see, to see what you can do now.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's kind of fun because it
This
was
is how
like
the
I was
baby
able.
became its own uncle, just with that mustache right there.
But yeah, no, it's just kind of fun to be able to like use that neural kind of idea without any
Hmm.
paint at all, and just kind of like didn't really need a full mesh warp, but got a little bit of the motion of the eyes and the mouth and that kind of thing. Um, yeah, so that was another example of using the mesh warp kind of for like a practical kind of slightly practical example there.
I want to
Little
apologize to Randy McEntee. It was E Trade. The baby was from E Trade, and and yes, he did work on that. I knew it was somebody in this group.
All right, so yeah, so that's
That's
like
great,
lots
man.
of little subtle and ugly power mesh examples for you guys.
That's great.
Um,
There
you
is a
know,
question from the chat
oh please, yeah,
about Power Mesh. One of them, it's from our good friend Richard, who was wondering, can you output a UV map from Mocha of one of those Power Meshes?
that is like a feature request. But no, right now you'd use Alembic essentially. Yeah. And so like the map that you get or that Alembic, conversion, again, it's going to kind of, you'll have these points, but they're all on, sort of think of it as they're all on the same 3D plane, and they're animated. So they're not going to be animated in depth. So how useful that is that for 3D? I would think it's probably like useful. Say you wanted to do some particles, where
Yeah,
you don't really need like the full 3D, but you get the points to animate the particles based on this kind of data.
yeah. What we used it for was our CG department was doing a water sim. It was for like a lotion or something like that. Was doing a water sim, and the water had to land on
Yep.
the person's shoulder, like as they were rubbing in the lotion or something. And so just to be able to give them a surface that could be a target for the sim, and then also something to catch like the shadows and catch
Yep.
the caustics and the other kind of refractions and things like that. And so that can give me passes that I could then use. It was just perfect, absolutely perfect.
Cool. But yeah, certainly I would encourage Richard like to, we're going to start another beta probably in about a month or so. And this will be, again, I mentioned for 2022.5. and
Hmm.
anyone can email me and we'll get you on the beta. We're always looking for requests. I mean, I know I do apologize. Like it took us a long time to support the GMAS tracer, right? But we finally get there. We do try to work with you guys and work with the users and constantly like updating it. And yeah, someone might have a use case that we might not know about, like yeah, UV maps or particular
Hmm.
format that you want to support.
And one more question for you. It's coming from our friend
Sure.
Mark, who was wondering, is there a nice page of keyboard shortcuts anywhere? He says, I know there was a multi-page list, but a cool cheat sheet would be, but a cheat sheet would be cool.
Yeah, we don't have like a great formatted. I'm trying to think where it would be. If you go to support here, documentation, and you go to the Mocha Pro user guide, somewhere in here is going to be a shortcut list. It might be in the down here in the bottom. Yeah, keyboard shortcuts. I just saw it. There we go. So, oh, you can customize your shortcuts, but also mentioned down here in the bottom this keyboard shortcut list, default Mocha shortcuts. There you go. Um, yeah, like I said, it's not formatted great. I would mention too for anyone that if you wanted to match some of your keyboard shortcuts, again, this might be something that people might have missed. It came out a couple of years ago, I think. Is that under File preferences here, you do have your keyboard shortcuts, and this is certainly one way you can just go through the software and you can sort of see what all these shortcuts are. But you can edit these shortcuts if there's a particular one you want to match Flame. We do, if you're a Nuke user, we have kind of tried to replicate the profiles in some of these things here. So there's like a Mocha one, After Effects. I got to get on Martin to add a Flame one. I don't know if there's that many differences, but yeah, if you want to, create your own Flame keyboard shortcut for Mocha, that's no problem.
You're opening yourself up to a world of hurt, man, because there's going to have to
Yeah,
be smoke hotkeys and flame hotkeys, and I'm just saying, be careful what you wish for.
yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I kind of find that I've just, well, for me, obviously, over the years, I've just like the Mocha ones are the ones I use. I've kind of like learned to, you know, X key for pan and Z and
Yep.
stuff like that.
And just I see Christoph here says, "Good things come to those who wait. GMAS tracer support is so awesome." And I know Jeff had mentioned earlier also that the GMAS tracer support was a wonderful addition to Mocha.
I'm really glad and pleased to hear you guys are using it. I know Christoph, Jeff. I think I saw Josh Lawrence in the
Oh
chat
yes,
earlier. I don't know if he's still here, but Josh was on us for a long time about GMAS. So hopefully it's really helped you guys.
that's great. And I got to say, like maybe a month ago, Randy showed me the workflow of using an unlinked track, and
Oh
it like
yeah,
changed my life. So just an amazing tool. I've been using Mocha more and more since I started last year when Power Mesh was introduced, and I've absolutely
very
fallen in love with it. So
very cool. So I'll show you something on the unlinked track workflow actually, which is also
ooh,
new. Which
bonus.
good leading question, Andy. Thank you. Um, let's just see here. I have two things I want to show. I don't know how much time we have. I have two little quick things to show.
Go for it.
One is, this is kind of a funky demo, but that I used the Sapphire's Ultra Zap for, which
Mm-hmm.
was like a kind of an intense roto. I just wanted to play around with sort of like a rotomation kind of like look, right? Which ended up being um, something like that. But the reason I want to show you guys this is talk a little bit about the track linking for roto, which is super useful workflow. Just get into that here. And bear with me. And okay, there we go. So I have a lot of layers here, and down here at the bottom, I'll go to my roto view so you guys can sort of see that. So down here at the bottom, I have some track layers, and basically you can, like you say, you can link any layer to any layer. So let's look. For some reason, this one's not collapsing. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'll just hide these. All right, so like here's a finger track, for example. There we go. Okay, so there's a finger track example where I've tracked that plane of the hand, and then you'll see like let's view a different view here. Actually, let's just view the my edge properties. Okay, my layer properties here. Now, and to let you know, so I just altered the workspace, and I could save this. This is Ross's roto view. Again, just little tricks. You can save that. So now I have the layer properties embedded in my roto view. And if I look here, like at this, let's see, I think that was the right hand. So now you'll see that basically, like all these different layers here are linked to that finger track. So that, and that's just a brilliant way and a quick way that you can really like do some in-depth segmentation. I have that track, I can hide that track and then start like linking all these layers here. So the long-winded point I'm trying to make is getting around to another new feature here, which is you can stabilize the viewer. So if I hide this and show my finger track here again here. So one of the new features here is that I could and you could always do this, but a lot of people don't use it, is you could stabilize the viewer, and now it's going to like lock that area into the viewer, so I don't have to chase, I don't have to chase the if I turn that off, you see that the hand is going all over the screen, and if I start getting into roto, if say I want to roto this finger, and I'll take this layer 130 here and link it to my finger track, which is somewhere down here. Where is it? Finger track. Okay, so now we can scrub through here and start, animating this shape. But what's a new feature is I can stabilize the viewer based on any layer. And it's kind of like, this is actually something that we took from Silhouette.
This is some Silhouette,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's what's kind of nice about the Silhouette and the Mocha team. Now we're really the same team, working close with Marco and Paul, is that we can kind of together be like, hey, Power Mesh is cool. Let's put this in Silhouette, or like, hey, this is stabilized viewer. That's a really great, feature. So now I could select any layer and stabilize it. So if I turn this one on and it's set to selected layer, then we can scrub through here and we're stabilizing based on that green layer. And then I can use this for my roto for a different layer. And that's a huge time saver.
That's
being
great.
able to kind of like play with the different view stabilizations. So yeah, that's a good one too that I forgot to mention, which is this quick stabilize now has the ability to select any layer in here.
That's great. The chat loves it, Ross.
Oh, excellent. Great. I'm glad. I appreciate the love. I'll cover one last thing, Andy. I think we're probably getting close to time, right?
Yeah, sure.
Just want to show a little bit of a Just Track module because we have updated this. And here's kind of using Mocha to insert some banners here on this bridge. If any of you guys are using After Effects, I'm pretty psyched about this multi-frame rendering too. Just to mention down here, you have this new frame rendering parameter. And it's kind of cool. You can actually sort of see when you add a new effect when you add a new effect into your composition. Like say I take this this layer here, which has a corner pin, and if I add like a sapphire or anything really, I'll add a blur here. You'll see that the effect automatically updates the render queue, which it's very cool. So like, it's just really fast now, and a feature that I personally love is that you can set After Effects so that when you're just like idle, when you're not doing anything, you can set it so it's like constantly just analyzing the timeline and rendering.
Oh, dude, that's a dream come true for me.
Yeah, check that out. See, like my timeline.
God.
Yeah, so now it's just constantly caching.
Oh, yes.
It's killer. It's kind of like the feature you always wanted. So yeah,
It's amazing. Dude, I requested that. Quinn, you were there, I think, at the Autobucks session at NAB. in 2015 or 2016. Oh yeah, totally.
yeah, it's a
Exactly,
great
just like that. That you
feature.
see the cache, go like a frame back, a frame forward, a frame back, a frame forward from wherever you are.
Yeah, and what I love too is just like, especially if you're starting, you're going to build like a really big comp. You can, every effect that you apply any effect, it's going to show up here exactly how many milliseconds it takes for every effect, and then
Oh,
you
that's
can kind
great.
of say, well, I might choose this blur instead of this, depend, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. Um, so, anyways, what I wanted to show you, last thing I'll show here is a bit of a just track. So we'll go in here and just like apply Mocha and launch it. Okay, let's just go in here in Essentials. I will mention too, if I go to Classic, that OCIO is in here now. So if you haven't used it, you go here. Here's your OCIO workspace. So in this case, I could set it to just Rec 709. But you can load an ACES profile into Mocha now. So that's all. That's all nice and good stuff. I know Autodesk does a really nice job of color management, and it was something that was an area that people were a little frustrated that Mocha didn't really have this. So we've added this, and it's also the OCIO is faster, so it's not really going to bog down the system. So just to like say really quickly, I wanted to track the surface of this bridge. Maybe I might do something like this and track. I'll draw a couple shapes. I'll use the X plus button. And the reason I'm doing this is every time when I use the X plus button, we're not creating a new layer every time. We're essentially, again, the ellipse plus button. But you'll notice that I'm still only have this one layer. I'm not adding to all these other, new layers. You could even mix these all together, different sort of like plus buttons here. And this is basically how you can add like a lot of little search areas to one Mocha layer. We'll turn on our surface. There's our blue surface. Again, I like to show this kind of stuff because you might not be aware. Just you could go into overlay colors and you could make this a different color so you guys could see this. And then now I've changed my colors, so it's a lot easier for me to see. So let's just position the surface on this upper part of where I want to insert a new graphic. And we'll just go ahead and we'll track translation, scale, rotation, shear, and perspective. Just do a little bit of this. And I zoom this out. And the reason I created these, different search areas is I wanted to use the planar data of the surface of the bridge without having to chase the data as it goes off screen. And I'll stop it as some of these, this area up here starts to go off screen. And the area below, which is on the same plane, is basically like, yeah, it's good, valid data, so why not use it? So, this is just a technique that I like to show people. Is really kind of understand the relationship between the search area and the surface area, right? Let's just go ahead and let that go a little bit. So that's just kind of a cool technique, to capture all this good data, nice juicy surface data here. It's all in the same surface of the bridge. Really, really great technique to solve difficult tracks quickly. But now that I have that track here, we'll turn that off. We'll look at that. What I want to do now is I want to adjust the track, and this is something that we updated sort of like in the last point release, but just to kind of cover this because it might be something you guys missed. The nature of planar data, if we look at our zoom windows, right? The nature of planar data is it can drift because you're kind of like saying like, I want to use uh, all this very specific pixel information on a plane, but then you're projecting that pixel information, all this sort of like feature information onto just these 4 points. So the nature planar tracking can sometimes drift. And you as the user, before you get into your, dive into your composite and flame, right, you might want to sort of massage that data a little bit. So I'm going to go into the adjust track module and just cover this one kind of cool thing. The classic mode is there, and this is like the old version, but it really, it was, and some of you guys might be nodding your heads. The adjust track module was kind of buggy. It didn't work that great. It worked on some kinds of shots, but it wasn't great. So we kind of went back to the drawing board and said, well, how do you want to, use this? So we'll turn on the same parameters that we captured, and we'll hit set points. And now you'll see that I have like these little 4 points here. Sorry, not the, we'll zoom in a little bit. You can select these points and you can drag them independently. You should be able to drag them independently. Let me turn off the surface. I don't know why it's not. Of course, we're in a demo state, so let's.
That's when these things always happen.
Yeah, very weird. Let's. I know why. No. Weird. Here, let's go back to track. Sorry about this, guys. Let me. What's happening here?
No worries.
It is cool once you see it, so I want to make sure I can show you guys. Adjust track. Let's just reset it all. Let's set points. Okay, there we go. And let's move this out of the way. The reason I wanted to show you this is like our top points are off screen there. So let's move this down, and you'll see like I'm basically creating a new reference, the relationship between that upper left corner and then this area. I might move it down to something else on the same relative plane. Let's move it down here. And then as I scrub through, you're going to see that reference frame, how it relates to this. And if there's any little subtle drifts, you can just nudge it here with the little nudge controls. These nudge points also work on your keyboard, and you just hit select, and you'll go between each of the different 4 points. But what's kind of cool about this is you can add multiple points. So like as those, say this reference right there, as it goes off screen up to here, you could actually create a new point, and you could add like as many new points as you wanted to, and those become new adjustment points. So the idea being like, you can easily really be massaging and tweaking your keyframes. And again, when I move that point, you'll see it's projecting it up to the top surface. So adjust track's been rewritten. It's really much easier to use now. It's not as buggy as the I shouldn't say as buggy. I should say it's not buggy. And if I hide this and I wanted to roto something, I want to point out a little thing here. Say I would just wanted to roto this area here of our bridge. The point I wanted to make was that we can then take this layer 2, and if I link it to layer 1, link to adjusted. So you can turn this now on, and this is going to link to the adjusted track data, and it will be a little bit more accurate for roto. Yeah. When you export it, it's automatically going to export your adjusted track. So that's just new improvements in the adjust track module. Again, we're very aware how people use our software, and it's like people use it for this kind of stuff, for planar tracking and for roto. So we're just trying to like always make these little improvements to make your life easier. Well, life easier when it comes to tracking.
Right, when it comes to tracking, right? It's great, man. No, I think it's wonderful that you guys have you listen to the community as and you communicate with them as frequently as you do with so many channels or via so many channels. And this is a perfect example. I mean, that we always need to adjust the track. I mean, it's like you're taking the tools and making the adjustments necessary based on your user feedback, because this is how we use it every day.
It,
And
exactly. Exactly.
people
Yeah.
always
No.
say like, it may only save you 5 minutes, but if it saves you 5 minutes every hour, 6 days a week, or however often you're using it, all of a sudden it's a huge quality of life improvement. So love it.
Exactly. That's like really what we're trying to help people with is like once you kind of get these nuances down, it just becomes a toolkit that you can turn to, and then you're like, oh, remember that last job I did, if
Yep.
I do this, it's going to be that much faster.
Yep. Ralph is saying here, he agrees, adjust track improvements are game changing.
Cool. Yeah, I know Ralph has been was an early adopter of Moki in Mocha back in the day. So yeah, I'm glad you appreciate it.
Sweet. Well, thanks, man. This was wonderful.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the 2022 release. Congratulations on 20 years of Mocha, or of
Yeah.
planar
Thanks.
tracking. Excuse me. It was great.
Yeah. No. Always a pleasure. To work with you guys. Back in the day, worked very closely with a lot of flame artists, so I have a lot of respect for the work that you guys do. I know it's not. I always think of the flame as it's the hero seat, right? And it's
Sure.
you guys, have a lot of respect for anyone who's working on flame these days.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Ross, I want to say thank you again very much for this. Ross is gonna join us right after this in a patrons Q&A. So if anybody does have any additional questions, or if you want to dive a little bit deeper, we can totally pick that up over in Zoom. I want to go ahead and give away a couple of prizes here on Logic. It's Logic Live prize time. We're gonna dive right in. The first thing to go is going to be a Logic.tv t-shirt, courtesy of the merch store. So let's go ahead and give this a click here. The wheel, brought to us by, what is that, Scadulo? We're running out of names. And Simon Holden, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations, Simon. All right. I also have a very amazing, if I might say, Logic water bottle. I have it right here. It's how I stay hydrated. Let me just bring this back here. It's how I stay hydrated. See, look at this. It's got logos on both sides. It keeps the hot stuff hot and the cold stuff cold. So let's give away one of these. Round and round it goes. Helder! Congratulations, my brother. All right. Congratulations, Helder. And finally, from our friends at Boris Effects, I have a 1-year license of optics. Let's give that away. Round and round we go. Michael Madrid. Congratulations, Michael. Let's hear it for all of our winners today. Congratulations, everybody. All right. Well, thank you again, Ross. I'm going to do some slides here and take us home. And we'll see you over in the chat. Coming up on Logic Live, we have... Oh, it's Logic Live prize time. Hold on. Coming up on Logic Live, we have on Sunday, November 14th, that's 2 weeks from today, we're going to have our friend Renee... Is it 2 weeks? Well, it's Sunday, November 14th. We're going to have our friend Renee Tim coming back. That's also our 2021 Flame Award winner, who's going to do the car show. Renee has some fantastic techniques for doing all kinds of car cleanup, whether it's stuff on the paint or it's reflections on the bumpers. If you need to shade the windows or tint the windows so you can get rid of the driver. Tune in on the 14th for some great car techniques from Renee. On the 21st, our friend Jeff Kyle is going to come back and take us through the image node, kind of like a little follow up or a little feature of his new Logic Academy series. Then we have Sunday, December 5th. We're going to do our second annual One Frame of White reunion show. I'm going to bring back on a whole bunch of One Frame of White previous winners, and we'll talk through the process. We'll take a look at some previous entries and kind of get ourselves all geared up for the big One Frame of White show on December the 12th. So a lot of great stuff coming up on Logic Live. Again, the forum is booming, so head on over there, forum.logic.tv, sign up, join the Discord. This episode of Logic Live, like all previous episodes, will be available on the website later today. We have 2 podcasts. We have Ask a Flame Artist. If you ever had a question you wanted to ask a flame artist, but were afraid to ask, you can go to the website, Logik.tv, and there's an Ask the Flame Artist button up at the top in the navigation. And this is a podcast hosted by Randy and our friend MB Emmy, and they answer all your flame-related questions. We're going to have a new episode of the Logik podcast out this week, I promise you. We're going to be recording it very, very soon. I think possibly Monday or Tuesday. But while you're waiting, check out my last interview, which was with Jean-Marc Laurent. He's a fantastic flame artist and small business owner based out of Montreal. And it was just a great conversation about the business. And all of our podcasts are available they're listed rather on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Get it wherever you listen to podcasts. Randy, we're up to 1.21 thousand subscribers. That's over 1,200, man. And I want to thank everybody who has subscribed. If you haven't already bugged your friends and your family to become a subscriber to the Logik Live YouTube channel, please, please, please annoy the hell out of them. It's the holidays coming up, friends. Thank you to all of our patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/LogikTV. Thank you to Boris Effects for being such great supporters of the community. And if you would like to save 15% on any Boris Effects product, standalone or subscription, just use the code Logik-15 at checkout. Don't forget about the merch, my friends, at Logik.tv, the merch store. Thank you, AJA. And thank you very much, Synesys, Solutions Development, Integration, and Support. That's going to do it for Logik Live today. Thank you, Ross. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.